Let me congratulate CSTEP for organizing this program on understanding the link between science, technology, and society. I'm very happy to note that CSTP is working on each of these areas for many years with a very able leadership, very dedicated persons who are carrying out this very important mission. And today we are going to debate and deliberate about how science and technology and society should work in a way that we can create a better world. If you really go to the human history, or for that matter, natural history of the world, all species, the intrinsic desire is to survive. To survive, they must understand the environment in which they live. How can you survive without knowing your habitat, your neighborhood, source of your food? You must understand the nature, how it is changing. And knowing that, you know that migratory birds migrate thousands of kilometers year after year, go back to the original place when they feel the environment there is going to be better than where they are now, do the breeding in the place where they belong to. The animals always migrate. In Serengeti and Masai Mara, you'll see in only that particular period, the people migrate in hundreds of thousands. Tell me, could they have done all this without understanding the nature which changes? When the birds know now it's going to be very strong winter in Siberia, better to run away from it. When they realize the animals know that the water is going to be scarce here and we may need more grassland, so they move to other places, but go back to the same place again. Could they have done it without understanding nature? Understanding nature is a basic of survival instinct. But then there are certain species like human beings who are not just contented with what they have or what they need for survival alone, but they always have some higher goals. Not higher necessarily in terms of better goals, but higher than what the animals have or the other species on the planet have. And therefore, they want to conquer the nature, which never has been the aim of any other species on the planet. They want to live with nature, understand nature, and according to that, change their own livelihood. They migrate. Human beings would have thought probably, why should I migrate? I will conquer the nature here. And that understanding the nature and this irrational realization that we can conquer the nature has both led to discovery of science. That how the nature functions and what can we do to conquer it. If you really look at it, I'm not a scientist. But if one look at it, all the discoveries that have happened in the world, if you really want to simplify them and say, all those discoveries are essentially discovering nature and then try to find out a pattern in those discoveries and then say it's a science. That's why it happens like this. The sun rises in the morning, rises in the east, that's a science. But what is the science trying to do in saying this? That I know sun rises in the east, but it is already a truth, universal truth, which only science has been able to see a pattern in it, therefore can say that it's a science that has happened. So science essentially is understanding the laws of nature, the functioning of universe, and finding out some pieces in it, and try to put those pieces into a bigger picture and try to find out a pattern in it. Society as a whole, everybody in the society is not necessarily that inquisitive, not necessarily have that exploratory mind. So not each one of them will go on this quest of discovering. Some of them do. And we call them scientists. But if you really, again, look more closely, those who are not classified as scientists, do they not understand nature? Does a farmer doesn't understand nature? How does he know that at this particular time I must do my sowing? Now today is a different thing. Farming started 15,000 years ago in the world. That time the scientists were not even born, the so-called scientists. They are not scientific laboratories, no scientific institutions. But a farmer knew how to farm, what to farm, when to farm. Because the farming was also dependent on nature. So he understood nature. The shepherd went into took his flock with him, discovered some species which were medicinal in nature. So we came to know medicinality of the nature little later. But he knew that it can cure a disease. Now such ordinary, or wrong word, such kind of people who are not classified as scientists, can you not call them also understanding science? So science is understood by all, but some devote more time to discovering it more, make it their own mission, career, and they are really good that we have this combination because those are the people who actually spend much more time, energy, intellect, and try to create a better world. So scientists play a key role in shaping better societies. Question is, does all science lead to making societies better? Some invented nuclear bombs. Scientific innovation, scientific knowledge. Some invented making fossil fuels as source of energy. It's also science. Looking back, can you say that there is social benefit which derived out of it? Has society benefited on it, from it, or lost from it? So we must therefore very clearly encourage more focus on science because that discovers more unknown facts to us. We can know nature better through this. But ultimately it's nature, because all this world which we are discovering is created already. So science is not creating a world. Science is discovering a world. So when you are discovering it, when you are finding out scientific ways of understanding it, you should not do it in a way that will damage the nature itself. When you are the beneficiary and a creation of that mother nature, you should not destroy my mother. So science responsibility is to do all these scientific innovations, ideas, but should not destroy the very nature that you are trying to discover. And that's something now must be brought in as a key important element of science. The ethics of science. The new protocols must be put in place to ensure that so-called discoveries, so-called inventions do not damage the very survival of human being. It does not threaten the survival of human beings, or for that matter, entire species, entire world. And to do that, society must be always very alert. Because part of society is doing science, but could threaten the entire society at large. Part of society who are scientists are trying to make life better for the rest of the society, because through their ideas, through innovation, society will benefit. So we must encourage science at any cost, but also must have inbuilt precautions so that science itself will not threaten the very existence of everybody. If a boatman is trying to take you to a destination through a very turbulent waters, you must ensure that a boatman is safe, because he is one who is guiding your destiny and your journey. But you should also keep watch on him that he is not going through the wrong currents, or he is not trying to deliberately take you to the risk. So it's a responsibility of all society at large to encourage science, but also build in these necessary safeguards. Technology is a derivative of science. When you understand the big picture, you can make derivatives out of it, make products out of it. You can find out some elements of it to make certain products which will benefit particular situations. Let's take example of the broad ecosystem of digital world. If there is no digital world, there cannot be apps. So digital world is like a big picture, like a science. The technology is like these products, like the apps. All over the world, you go to rural areas of India, or for that matter, anywhere in the world, more you are away from society, which is so modern, claims to be modern, you will find the human mind far more enlightened, though less educated. My grandmother, I always mention it, my grandmother was far, far more enlightened than me, but far, far less educated than me. So how much is the gap that we have created by education and enlightenment? Can we not make these gaps smaller so that those who are enlightened can join hands with those who are educated and make world better, develop new products, new technologies? And to do that, the human mind is far, far more developed and enlightened than anything else. And that mind should be allowed to be fully developed. We have so many innovations happening in rural areas because people live in adversity. the first human being started walking on the planet, faced far more adversity. So his mind was always alert. He was facing risk at every step that he was undertaking. That alertness, that prone to risk, created more and more ideas to be generated for his own survival. As I said, that's the basic starting point. So today in rural India, we have so many new innovations taking place, which we don't know. And I've experienced it myself. Prime Minister Modi, new vision of New India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. We can link these bright minds anywhere in the country to ensure that they're able to focus on that and grow together and develop that ideas to logical conclusion. So we must have such bright ideas from not, I'm saying ordinary in the words of not non-scientific world of the country to the scientific institutions of India. Because ideas are not necessarily born on laboratories. Laboratories are meant to test ideas, convert ideas into concept to product. But ideas will be born not in laboratories, but in minds, in the brains. Can we link minds and brains of ordinary people to the scientific laboratories of India? Can the scientific laboratories encourage such new ideas to be tested? Can the public policy space in India will encourage such alliances, such collaborations? We always know, proverbially saying, that person who wears the shoes, he knows where it pinches. So when you are trying to address societal problem, because this is a program based on society, who will know the societal problem better than the people who are living it? And where are they living? Most of the people live in rural areas, in hutments of the urban areas. They know the problems. Of course, they don't have the time to think about it because their struggle for life is so harsh that they don't get time to think. But they understand the problem. They are finding their own solutions in their own way. Innovations are happening there already. So as they say, the shoe pinches where, and who knows the wearer of the shoe. So if the problem is known to somebody and you are the laboratory is trying to address that problem, not really necessarily always living that problem, if you can link both together, can you imagine the transformation that will happen? Because society's problem, the scientific community is trying to address, and society's problems are understood better by those who are suffering those problems. So my suggestion is, let's bring science, technology together, and society should work in some sort of a common platform. That's a challenge for public policy. How do you bring them together? Because scientists may think I am so well qualified, I've done my PhD, postdoctorate, I got so many patents in my name, intellectual property rights are written in my name, so I'm an ordinary person, he understands. You know the famous story, because I was giving example of a boat. When a scientist was traveling in a boat, he asked the boatman, that, do you know a particular science? He said, no. He asked him, do you know algorithm? He said, no. Do you know astronomy? He said, no. He said, your life is futile. You have not learned anything. The boatman asked him, do you know swimming? He said, no. Then I think my life is ruined, but now your life is lost. Because because my life is ruined, I'm throwing into the water. You don't know swimming, so I don't know what will happen to you. So science must understand the limitation of science and should not undermine the raw, genuine knowledge which is available in a society as a whole. If you forget that, and if you don't bring them together, We lost out on a major opportunity of new ideas getting to fruition. And that's the disconnect that we have in India today. We have scientific laboratories, scientists, science and technology ministry. And so they're all supposed to be working for the society and not necessarily always addressing the problems of society in a right manner. Not always. Sometimes they do, many times they do. But just imagine if you bring all of them together. I think that is what we must try to do. I hope this particular program and CSTP's mission will focus on these key issues in a proper manner. Let me once again thank my colleagues in CSTP for doing this program and for inviting me, though I'm not a scientist and have no understanding about the interplay between science, technology, and society. At the same time, for inviting me, I think you are inviting me as a representative of those who are ordinary people of the country, and I represent them. I assure my interface, my interaction with such enlightened gathering like yours will help in bridging this very necessary but growing gap between society and science. I hope all the best. Thank you very much.